Welcome. So without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker of this evening, Chris Bruce. He's the CEO of Sproutling, and they are making a product that's both software, hardware, data, just right in the middle of what we're talking about.
It's every buzzword imaginable right now. So first thing I want to do is apologize. You guys have like a wide background, and I can't possibly, laser focus a pitch or a deck or anything for such a diverse audience. So what I chose to do is talk about our story, Sproutling, kind of how we got started and some key points that I learned along the way, and then with little segues into IoT. And what I really like to do is kind of at the end of maybe each key point, just maybe open it up a little bit for discussion, and we can dive in. So it's a little light on engineering. I know some of you engineers are here. I'm happy to go, like maybe offline go deep into technology and some sort of cool stuff that's coming out. But right now, I think the rest of the room might be better off if we don't in this step. So Sproutling, yeah. So really, it's we're still in progress. So where we're at today is we started quite some time ago bootstrapping it. We took some seed stage money and went to an incubator, hardware incubator, and then we not too long ago closed a larger round from some good VCs. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So why? So why Sproutling? So let's just kind of talk where we came from. So that's my co-founder Matt, and that's me over there, obviously. Where we started is, we've both been sort of involved in startups for quite some time. I was actually at a company called Rusher, got acquired by Electronic Arts, left, did another company, a small company in between, sold it, and then co-founded a company called Divergent. So social gaming for Hollywood, essentially. So we did stuff for Showtime, HBO, Sony. Michael Eisner was a huge investor. He drives Volt, by the way. But at some point, as Zynga was getting ready to go public, our user acquisition costs went up fivefold, and kind of an early stage company that's pretty devastating. And to be honest, I think at this time I had my second daughter, and I read Steve Jobs' biography, and love him or hate him, but the one thing I gathered is I just felt like I wasn't working on anything that made a difference. And then when I looked at all this stuff with social gaming and even some earlier startups, like there's nothing that I could sort of carry on to my kids and say, hey, you should be proud of what we do. So it had no impact on their life. So Matt is very similar. So he was the first technical hire at Human Genome Sciences, and he helped build the largest human genome database in the world. Then went on to co-found a company called Raindoll, co-founded a company called Noosh earlier than that, and co-founded a company called Double Dutch, which is still in business. And if you've ever gone to like TED or any big conference, if you ever used sort of a conference branded app for the conference, that was them. And he had the same epiphany was, I got 7,000 users the weekend, and then the app is dead, and he wanted to get back into healthcare. And so we ended up going, we didn't know each other at the time, but we ended up meeting up at Wellness Effects. So Wellness Effects does Google Analytics for your blood. Him and I built a mobile platform from the ground up there. And we kind of, shared a story. And so I had this story about looking at a baby monitor. It was a night vision, and look, my daughter should be awake by now. She cries every night at 10. She's hungry, and now it's 11 and she's not awake. And so I look at it, get nervous, and sneak in there, try to tiptoe and be quiet, not wake her up. And really, I thought I was the only one. I thought it was just, I grew up in a tough town, played football, maybe I'm just, being, daddy's girl, but really, it turned out Matt had the same problem. So, and then he bought an audio monitor, and you crank it up loud enough to hear anything, and then you're hearing motorcycles and airplanes. And so it turned out we went on and we found, just this was a universal story for anybody that's had kids. So many people have done this, and so we started bootstrapping it at Wellness Effects. I started with just a rough Arduino, and we just kind of got the concept down. And then we went on to go to One Medical Group. Again, we rebuilt the mobile platform from the ground up, rebuilt the engineering team. And this whole time, and we'll talk about this, but this whole time, having our own itch to scratch is great, but making sure it's something commercially viable and then people really are going to want to do a similar thing was important to us. So we spent a lot of time bootstrapping it at this point, and then we went on. So the big thing I think is, for anybody that's starting a company or anybody that's in this space, you should be working on something that really makes a difference. And it's, Internet of Things has a potential to be like a big disruptive technology, and with big disruptive technologies come sort of like big game-changing things. And so for us, this is such an important passion of ours to really change the face of parenting and what it means in the future. And you'll see that this is Internet of Things is a way to kind of do that. So why? So see this one here. This is my second daughter. Laser pointed. This is the grumpy one. Well, that's the one that I had as the version was kind of winding down. And the one thing I'll say about any company is if you go back to the stories of founders that got involved in something, it was never, they didn't get involved because it was some technology. I mean, there's some cases where it's technology, but a lot of times founders start companies because they have a unique perspective on something. And for Matt and I think our kids really changed our perspective of the world. And coming from a technical background and be able to build and engineer things, I think we quickly learned that, hey, we have some new insight into this space. It's personal, and we have some ability to do it. And so I think it's really important when you're getting involved with projects. So what are we? So I should change that to Google for the nursery, but it's not better right now. So really, we've always looked at ourselves Nest for nursery, only because I think at the time Nest was the true iconic sort of implementation of Internet of Things without even being referenced as an Internet of Things device. And for us, it was really told a story that it's not about this single product, it's about this future with what we're trying to do, and we'll talk about that. But the most important things is we're really focused on raising parenting IQ and really deliver smart insights to parents and give people peace of mind anytime. So. And then this is the last slide you're going to hear about our product. It's not really a pitch, but I just want to get an idea. So it's a wearable baby monitor. It's smart, but what that means really is that our focus is not just on the pure mechanics of telling you if something's wrong with your child or telling you when to run there. Our focus is really on using the whole system as a whole, data, sensors, wearable, internet-connected things, mobile, to really bring a new experience to parents and really come back to this concept of raising parenting IQ. And our focus is to use stuff like this to take the first-time parent, make it feel like a second-time parent. And so something that's not really spelled out here, but not only are insights important, which I think are really cool. Like we collect data, we can say, is it normal that my child wakes up 5 times a night? Is it normal that they should, they take 3 naps or 2 naps, and so these are all things that we can derive insights for. But I think that the challenge is how do we take all this data, which now is officially big data because we can track millions of things, we can store it, we can analyze it, and then how do we convert that into foresight? So how can I really make that first-time parent feel like a second-time parent? And these are things like predicting. So, can I predict when they're going to wake up from a nap? Can I tell you that you should be cutting from 3 naps to 2 naps? Well, these are all things that we're focused on. And these are really, when you have something that's connected to the internet, you can get data out. You can certainly analyze that data and get it back in. So I think it's a real big component of what the promise is. So I think why a lot of people are interested in these spaces. So we'll go into the section. So these are going to be a lot more of kind of how we started to go about it. And so I think we'll have lots of questions here. So really, what's the problem? No matter what, so there's this label, wearables, a label, Internet of Things. But really, what's the problem we're solving? For us, I can't tell from this display if my child's alive. Like I can't. And I can't look at it when I'm asleep. And at some stage, when you have a new baby, gosh, you want sleep. And so that's the problem. And this is the one thing that I learned with startups and going through fads like gamification and just all this like social gaming. And one thing I've learned is that the best products in the world take an existing behavior and make it suck less. I mean, that's really the crux of it. New behaviors are very hard. They can be done. Twitter, I think, is a great example of a new behavior. You can also argue that maybe it's just short form blogging, but in reality, it takes a long time to develop a new behavior. And I think, if you're using technology to solve an existing problem, most likely it's an existing behavior that people are already doing, and you're going to make them able to do it better. And so for us, the start is breathing. I think, in the first 6 months, really focused on that. But the reality is that after that, they have new worries and new behaviors that they do. Then it becomes about sleep, then it becomes about other things. And so for us, it's really important to do that. And so I would challenge that anybody that's an entrepreneur or getting into space or thinking about doing a project in this space is, what's the problem you're solving? Is it a real problem? If you're in it just because it's an internet connected, something or another, like a foot peg here that tells you when this table's out of balance. Is that a real problem? Are people coming down there to like always adjust the balance? Maybe in this thing, maybe pool table. But the reality is, you make sure you're solving a real problem, and you're not just using technology for the sake of technology. Any questions? This is key point number one. If you're ever going to raise money, if you can't clearly articulate this, you're done. So after you've found a problem, you want to prove product market fit. And I want to use this curved TV thing as an example. For all of you that have curved walls, godsend. Finally, somebody has made a product for you. For everybody else that you want that thin TV that doesn't poke away from your wall, I'm sorry, now your TV is going to poke away from the wall and it's going to be thicker than you thought. So for us, what we really did again is in that stage where we kind of had an initial concept and we thought, man, this is a great idea. And I had friends of mine that wanted to invest in the company and really pushing us to go. But for us, it's really about product market fit. And so we really wanted to talk to people. We had questions about, are there concerns about RF? Like what's their perception of this? Are there concerns about, using any kind of technology? There's just tons of stuff. And so for us, the best way to start this is really just to talk to people. And so before we even started the company, before we even applied to an incubator, we had talked to 30 parents. And we'd gone through and we'd actually kind of came up with some archetypes. And anecdotally, what we found is about 10%, there's this 10% category of mostly moms, but it's definitely Mother Nature has been doing this. I don't want to, I'll never use technology. This has been going on for thousands of years, and it's okay. And so that's good, but you might not have understood that unless you started talking to people. And then the other thing we thought for sure was RF. RF's going to be the big issue. Everybody's going to be afraid of that. Well, it turns out in the U.S., no. The people, that's like kind of the last thing. More about choking, more about what's the data, what's the features it's going to do. And so,
Radio frequency. The question is, what's RF?
Oh, sorry, radio frequency. Yeah. So you got to understand that even though that you can hear music on your iPhone that's being transmitted from audio or anything, it's traveling. There's energy traveling through the air, and so people are worried about radiation and I'm sure there's better people to go into technical details about that, but there's radiation bouncing off the walls. There's radiation bouncing off your skin. Some higher frequency stuff actually tends to go around your skin. So there's a lot of things, and so I think everybody that's put a cell phone next to their ear at some point early on is like, well, am I going to get like a tumor here? And so the jury's still out, I think, but understanding what the current concerns are and really talking to people are the most critical thing. So questions about that? Yeah.
Did you have to do like some sort of approval similar to FDA or?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Some sort of medical approval that you had to get, like this is a device for kids, did you have to go through some regulation approval?
So that's a good question. So she asked if we had to go through some medical regulation. So the FDA controls devices in this space. There's a lot of companies pushing boundaries, and there's some companies that are getting their hands slapped, like 23andMe. But for what we did is in this particular space, and I'll talk about this later on, but what we focus on is we talked to an FDA consultant, we brought an FDA consultant on, and we really dug into what it was. And actually, when we started this, we wanted to do something a little bit more advanced. And what it turned out is that was definitely in the crosshairs of the FDA. And so part of this product fit exercise is when we kind of discovered that stuff, we had to go back to people and say, well, if it didn't do this, would it be okay? The other thing about product market fit, it's not about saying, here's my idea. It's about saying, like, do you have a problem with this? Like, understanding, the first thing is really saying, is this a problem? And then if I gave you a device with this set of things to solve the problem, would that work? And you want to iterate on that. It's not pitching them, it's really trying to iterate on the least amount of features that solve the problem, and really kind of understanding it. And some other things that we do is we might, during the product market fit exercise, we might actually tell some people it only does these two features, and then other people only does these other two features, and to kind of get a balance for what people seem to latch onto. So, but yeah, most devices, and then the other thing I'll say is about Internet of Things devices. They use a radio frequency or RF, and that is also regulated by FCC. It's also regulated by CD in other countries. Yeah.
When you're out there doing all these talks with customers, or potential customers, most likely on a lot of things you're going to get some answers back that if you just like took an average, it's a very gray answer. It's not some people are gotta have it, other people like that doesn't matter at all.
Yep.
How do you, just at a high level, how do you parse this kind of very noisy signal into not the yes/no of like, should we build something? That's probably fairly easy, but into like where to draw the line at what to include.
Yep. So the interesting thing is, when you do any kind of research, there's really kind of, well, there's several approaches, but two sort of camps. There's quantitative, which means we're going to run a survey, we're going to take very critical analytics, measure responses and calculate percentage and stuff. And then there's qualitative. And so at this stage, qualitative is the sort of gray area or loose sort of question answer. And the idea is the more people you talk, you actually start to build an intuition for the space in general. And so we're domain experts, so we kind of had some of our own opinions and assumptions. And then as we got more and more into it, we started, like RF was always kind of a big issue, and then when you talk to people, you get this intuition. So qualitative, or this discussion of talking to people, is not really to lock down, like, oh, that's this precise feature set. There's some other ways you can do that, but it's really to be loose. And the reason why it's important is that if you have a survey, you have like one question. What if somebody doesn't understand that question? They can't answer. They can't ask anybody like, oh, well, what do you mean by this? And so the point of talking to somebody is you can really kind of probe and understand. How you go about it is also important. So when you do any kind of research like this, asking yes/no questions is the wrong answer. You want to you really want to do open-ended questions, and the key is to recount real experiences. So tell me about a problem when you were worried about your baby. What time was it? What'd you do to go figure out if they're okay? Does this happen a lot? And so you try and get very specifics about a real event. And whereas I think when you get into sort of quantitative, they tend to generalize. So I think the gray area at this stage is really good, but there's some other tools we'll talk about to start to lock down some of these in a more quantitative approach. Any other questions? So the very next thing, so if you recount, like the first thing we did is problem. The next thing we did is this really fit with the marketplace? Now the thing is, like, who cares, right? Who cares about this like self-leveling thing? That's the next thing you got to really do. You really want a lot of people to care about it. And so this is the one thing that I see over and over, especially in this space, is what we're getting to is this kind of niche thing. So we're able to build things, we're able to build smaller batches cost effectively, we're able to develop quicker. There's a lot of things that manufacturing has really improved upon, and that's also let us kind of build more niche focused things. So we can really target like something really well. So instead of building something that's general, kind of appeals to everybody, we can focus to one. The problem is if that focus is not a good market size, you're gonna have trouble. So hardware is the key thing about hardware, and if it's internet connected, it's some piece of hardware is there's capital costs. It's got to go out. People have to buy it, or it's going to get returned. There's just a lot of costs up front. And so for anybody like me who's come from software, where hey, we can at the push of a button change the whole thing if we want, and we could put a subpar one out because our customers expect that they can fix it if anything goes wrong instantly. But hardware is much different because you have so much lead time. And a classic example is in like software, like we've done away with the Gantt chart. Like if you talk about a Gantt chart in any kind of modern development, software development, I should say, you're going to get kicked out of the room. And we got things like Agile, Lean, Scrums, and we have all this like stuff to sort of alleviate that. And the reason is because in software we can iterate really rapidly. We can change things really simply. And so the idea is we want to take this like long lead process of really speccing it out, narrow it down, and spec it on the fly, change it, spec it on the fly, change it. Hardware, I think we want to do that, but in reality, it's not easy. I mean, there's things like long lead parts. You have to order when you're ready. Tooling, things take a long time, and so now you're back to this Gantt chart. And so for me, that's like a big struggle because I really want to figure out how we can be more agile. And there's people that are really trying to push the boundaries here, trying to do even design tweaks when they get into certain build stages like EVT, which is engineering validation tests and other things. But if anybody wants to talk more technical, we can offline. But before you even get there, you got to make sure there's a market for it. And this is the trickier part because a lot of things that you guys are probably building are new to the world. So if you look at traditional marketing, we look at a similar product or a similar category, and we really kind of look at what other companies have done this, but we're inventing new categories here. There's going to be completely new disruptive categories. So it's very, very hard. And so extrapolation, you do a lot of stuff. And so for us, we took a really top-down approach. We looked at existing monitor sales. We looked at what percentage people bought a monitor, and then we thought, well, if this solves the problem better, then maybe the penetration rate is higher, but maybe there's an adoption curve, so it's lower. So there's a lot of things that go into understanding this. And for anybody that's starting a company or thinking about starting a company, this is the thing you're going to get hammered around big time. And the other thing about hardware, and we'll talk about this in the slide, is that software can be, you could generate millions or billions of dollars in revenue. It could be $1 billion company with a lot less sort of overhead that it takes for hardware. But that one product is, most likely not going to be $1 billion product. And so, getting that market is critical. So you want to really optimize and be efficient here. Questions? Yep.
With the lead time on hardware, isn't it important to dumb down the hardware as much as possible and push the intelligence into the software in the cloud and onto the device?
Yep. So this is why probably there's lots of investors here. There's why a lot of people are looking at this space because I think like Rob Coney-Bear from Shasta said it once. He said that now, like in the old days, we used to make this master DVD or CD, and it's called the Gold Master. And so we'd write all this code, and then we'd put it onto a disk, and then it was very similar to kind of manufacturing in some ways. Because in those days we didn't have the internet, so you had to go to a physical store, buy a box, and you had to install on your computer. And so you couldn't just push out updates. And so that's a critical point, and this is why I think the Internet of Things is really tied closely with hardware, because for the first time, if you can get that gold master in hardware, the cost of devices have come down, the ability to run software on them, they're basically running CPUs, like mini computers, microcontrollers, and so you can update them in the field. So that's the promise. So the Internet of Things is now the ability to get that hardware connected, and now to gold master that hardware, get it out there, and then update. And in fact, Nest does a good job of this. They've unlocked features as they're going out. Like we have some features that probably roll out in software updates. And I think Rob also says that it's really a good story point. It's like the hardware actually gets better as I use it longer, and I didn't have to pay for it. So it's an important aspect. I'll go to him first, and then you go.
So how much did rapid prototyping play into the development of the first thing that you could show to somebody? Because it's like everybody's like, oh, 3D printing is this wonderful thing, and you want a CNC, and you want MakerBot, and you want this, and I've done 3D printing. I've worked at a company that makes robot parts, and you have a really, really nice $300,000 one, and you have the $300 one, and
yeah.
One falls apart, and then you pick it up, and the other one. So really, how important was it to you to be able to do things? Oh, we can just make a 3D model of this.
Yeah. So the physical aspect of it, it's not caught up. So like this guy back here that makes 3D, or printers for PCBs and assembly, like critical. Like so in our particular case, because we're wearable and it's babies are tiny, and so getting something wearable, you can't just print it and throw electronics in it. Like get form factor electronics are even hard, especially at that scale. So for us, a lot of the rapid prototyping came with like development systems. So in the old days, like you'd have to look at a catalog, you'd have to call a sales rep, and good luck getting a development kit. And if you got one, it was probably thousands of dollars. Now you can go to Radio Shack and buy one for $20, right? And so I would say from the electrical engineering standpoint, rapid prototyping is good. I think from sort of an appearance model, the 3D printer rapid prototyping is good. In some cases, you can print a mold, and you can just do a room temperature silicone mold there to kind of get a looks like model. But for us, I think the big issue, and if somebody solved this problem, was how can we rapidly prototype electronics in form factor, and then I could stuff into a hand-built mold and go. But for us, a lot of the early work has been on back-end systems, so getting devices that can send data and simulate data. And so we built stuff with BeagleBones that monitored the room, and we built stuff with small dev kits and Bluetooth Low Energy dev kits that we basically Velcroed onto babies, and so we've done a lot of this stuff, but it's not as good as it could be. I'll be honest. So.
Yeah, two things. I didn't know babies you could Velcro right to babies.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit more involved. So yeah, don't.
So the second thing is the security.
Yep.
Right, you're doing some very family-oriented, very private things, and what's your strategy to make sure when Anonymous decides to turn their guns your direction,
yep,
you're protected? Yeah,
so that's a good question, and to be honest with you, I think it's an evolving landscape. So privacy in general, and I've talked about this before, but I think a lot of wearables, a lot of Internet of Things devices have this real privacy issue. And an example is like if I wear this, like my jawbone up, and like let's say I get into a fight and I pull out a knife and stab somebody and run away, can they go subpoena that data and see that I stabbed this person or something? So So like there's a whole host of things that we haven't even encountered yet. And for our case, it's like, what if a parent is drunk and then, or is accused of child abuse or something? Are they going to subpoena data to like see if, you know, they could glean some sort of information? So it's a big concern, and I think as a lot of companies are borderlining on sort of healthcare, I would say consumer healthcare, which is not quite medical grade, it's not quite just non-anonymous data. There's a lot of gray areas, and so like, you know, some things we have a lot of experience with HIPAA, we have a lot of experience building medical systems, so we understand a lot of those things, but I also think there's the other aspect where researchers would love a combination of data. We've gotten researchers reach out to us from Xerox PARC and a bunch of other places. So how do we seamlessly let parents share that data if they want to? You know, it could help in autism, it could help in other forms of research. So you know, it's such a moving landscape. The one thing I think for our company, and you know, it's I hate to say it sounds like lip service, but the fact is, you know, we're focused on the parent. Like we're a fan. Like we look at ourselves as family technology. We want to be the Fisher Price or Graco of family tech. We just want to be the best in that thing, in that category. And so for us, we always want to do what's best for the parent. Like we want to do what's best for our customers, and if that means that we have to sell something for $10 more because it's a better experience and they get a better value out of it, then we will. And so, you know, like just having that sort of mentality and that mission statement, that sort of stuff from the beginning, hopefully helps. But then again, you know, Google has "don't be evil," and you know that's questionable. So, but it's a gray area. It's a tough, and I think every one of us are going to face those challenges. So, yep.
Have you thought about, with respect to this question, giving people the choice of not sharing
Yep.
the data?
Absolutely.
Because that's what most companies don't do, is that they don't give you that choice.
Yep. So in our particular case, you opt in if you want to do it, and you can opt in anonymously. You could also add extended information. So in research, you know, there's a ton of stuff like ethnic background, you know, like what's your income level. There's a bunch of other stuff that can be useful. So you know, our site is privacy first, and then if you want to contribute, you can. So, yep.
FDA is near and dear to my heart, and from your presentation, I haven't heard anything that will attract your attention, because really what you're doing is, you know, passing information as to whether the baby is, you know, moving asleep, awake.
Yeah.
So, well, my watch touches my wrist. It's not FDA approved.
So yeah, there's.
How do you draw the line?
Yeah, so we have like like I said, I think there's a lot of boundaries moving in this space, but we have an expert FDA consultant that works with us on everything that we do, every communication. You know, the critical thing is it's partly about diagnostics. So that's a big thing. Are they using it for diagnosis? Are they going to look at our device and decide whether or not to call a doctor? If that is the case, FDA will get the device. That, you know, that cheap $3 thermometer you buy at Walgreens, Class 2 medical device.
Yeah.
So so navigating that is a big thing. And so the other thing too is like we're very interested in doing FDA for our second version of the product, because there's some features that we want that would be definitely under FDA stuff. So as a startup, that's a big risk. So going through FDA, especially babies. So if you look at, you know, when you look at the history of, you know, 510Ks and other, which is an application process for FDA approval, when you look at those in infants, it's a lot more trickier. So you can go right now where you can go buy a pulse oximeter device that will measure your blood oxygen level on Amazon, no worries, right? But if that device is for an infant, it requires a prescription. So they can get an FDA approval, like a simple, relatively easy FDA approval to do that. But if it's for an infant, then a doctor has to prescribe. So there's a lot of areas, but you know, the FDA is like obviously is going to have to come up with ways to deal with these types of things. And so there's like scan-dos and a bunch of things just pushing the boundaries every day. And there's companies that are just not even, you know, they're not even asking permission. They're just doing it that's like blatantly obvious. So, you know, for us, it's important to make sure that, you know, we build a trustworthy brand. So we definitely need to be, you know, on the up and up, whatever we do. So, you know, every feature that we have, we're prepared to like take it out if there's any question about FDA or what have you. So, any other questions? All right, so I think we talked about this a little bit, but you know, I called to one more thing, but you know, again, software products can scale to billions of dollars. You know, they can make tons of money. You know, they don't have the timelines and stuff that Harvard does. And so I would advise that anybody that's getting into space is also look at the bigger picture. So, you know, everybody knew Nest was not just a thermostat company. I mean, everybody obviously knew that. And you know, there's probably a lot of companies that, you know, that you see now that have a product that, wow, that's very cool, but how are they going to scale? You know, how are they going to build a big company off that? And so, This is the one thing that I think is important. This is what, like, for us, it was always this. Like, we always knew that there's a whole host of these pain points that we want to solve. But I think a lot of people fail to look at this and they'll come up with a sort of one product and not really think about the ecosystem. And I think cooking is a good example. I think there's lots of opportunity in the sort of in the kitchen space, but it requires a lot of products, obviously. So, yeah.
As a startup that's doing hardware in wearables, actually acquiring physiological signals, which requires algorithms on that component, and then the larger data analytics. As you were pitching to investors, how did they not accuse you all the time of boiling the ocean?
I think, well, we had legitimate stuff working. So, and the other thing too is everything we did was problems. So I could direct it to exact problem of what the pain point we're trying to solve is and why and how we're doing it. And our team, from the get-go, had a data scientist, so we were already doing a ton of research and validation into what we can do from that. And so, I think our approach, and I'll talk about this, but it's not just that. So the big data, the wearables, the connected. Honestly, when we started, my thing was hardware bootstrapping. There was no hardware startups, no hardware incubators or anything at the time, and I just I'm bootstrapping. Oh, hardware and babies. I'm definitely bootstrapping. And so I was committed to bootstrapping this. And to me, this was always a passion project, and I was just this is important. So, but it turns out when you add a couple of these other ingredients, I'll talk about, you build a bigger picture. And I'll touch upon something shortly here. And so this is kind of what we did, and we'll all speak to a lot of this. Technology is not enough. This is the most important thing. So in this space, when we actually went to raise money, there was a bunch of sort of early stage competitors that made rounds, probably talked to every investor. I was surprised, oh, we already talked to so-and-so. But I think that the important thing that we did different is that not only did we have technology, and I think every company that's venture-backed has technology given. Some of the good companies have product and UX. So they're product-centric, they're focused on UX, clean, simple design. But I think you have to nail brand. Brand is key. So I'll tell you this 5 times, you can't compete on price. If you think that you're going to make the low-cost widget, you're going to lose every single time. You just can't. And in the world where there's Android phones, iPhones, whatever else there is left. But brand is so important. That's why people still use a BlackBerry. They're locked in. And you go to a store and you look at shelf full of cereal. There's everything. And it's really how every touch point that a customer has with you and your company, that's your brand. And that defines how your product's going to look, what your core values are. Is this thing going to be this big clunky ugly thing, or it's got to be something special? It's all about your brand. So if you're the low cost leader, you lose, guaranteed, you lose. And so I think for us, to answer your question, why wearables, big data, connected, why we didn't just get shuffled under the rug, was because we looked at from day one with this in mind. Okay, the technology's there. BLE is an enabling technology. We definitely have a background in product and UX. We built 5-star medical apps, both at One Medical Group and Wellness Effects. And but brands are key. And our approach was really, we looked at this the marketplace. We think there's this growing category called family technology. There is a whole generation of kids that grown up with internet, have grown up with smartphones, and now starting to have kids. And you look at the place, and it's these Chinese knockoffs. So they got Motorola, they got Philips, they got people who make TVs, tires, and they also make baby monitors. That technology has not changed, and most of the technology has a picture of a mom holding a baby smiling. So even the marketing, even the branding, everything was been the same way forever. And for us, we look at this and says A, there's this new category nobody's addressing. B, there's this whole generation of kids that they don't want some clunky thing that looks pink or blue. They want something that's that's well designed. It looks soft, looks comfortable. It's smart. It's seamless. All these things. And the very first thing we did, even before we started industrial design, is we really nailed our brand. And your brand is about not as much as what you are, also as it is about what you're not. So what are we not going to be is a big critical factor, because at some point you think, oh, we're going to be everything to everybody. But what you want to do is you don't want to be. I think the saying goes, I want to be everything to everybody. You want to be everything to someone. And so I think the brand is important, and a brand is an opinion. And you know, our first thing too when we went to our industrial design firm is, like, it cannot be pink or blue. Like, we're never going to do anything that's pink or blue. You know, it's not going to be cute. It's going to be designed for parents. And so that was a core tenet of the brand. So I think this is why I think there's 2 or 3 other companies that went to some of the same VCs we went to, and they didn't get funded we did. Because I think we're looking at this space long term, what we're trying to build in this space. Also, what our sort of product roadmap is, and it's all focused on not only technology and great UX, but the brand. So I think like if I could give you one major thing for anybody starting a company, especially in hardware, this is important because so many people just overlook that in a big way. So, questions?
You guys have an API?
We will, yeah. So brand, yeah. So brand is a key differentiator, period. So these are some of the the things that we talk about, but so everything is important to get this sort of brand foundation as early as you can. And we made big changes to our industrial design. We actually we changed a bunch of hardware because we felt the out-of-box experience was not on brand. We felt there were some other aspects of the system that just didn't live up to our brand. And at the end of the day, that brand, whether it's like simplicity or trust or whatever your sort of key tenets are, like trust is built upon how well you deliver that in everything. So like beta sign up, like you can't just put some Google form, right? That's it's people going to trust unless you're the low cost leader. Google forms work. But for us, making sure that even our web, like a beta sign up might right now be used by maybe 100 people tops, like still is well branded. It's like everything we sweated over is the message they got back. Every little detail, because at the end of the day, everybody that has an interaction with your company at the early stage becomes a fan later. And if you're on brand and you're true to that and everything you do, and it's baked into your company and your employees and everybody that's associated with you believe that and understand it and it shows, then people are going to fight for you. They're going to be your fans. They're going to really want to see you succeed because at the end of the day, like authenticity is sort of represented by this. And I don't mean brand in sort of a manipulative way. I mean, it's really kind of what your core tenets of the company are. Like, what do we believe? Why are we doing this? And what's our goals? That's all part of your brand, in my opinion. So, yep.
I've heard a few other hardware startups in the area talk, especially when it's first time with a physical product for the founders, and it sounds like it is for you guys as well.
Yep.
That that out-of-box experience and that physical sort of manifestation of the product has been really hard to iterate on because they haven't. Have you been able to outsource that to other?
No, we never outsourced. Yeah. So
yeah, how have you sort of iterated on this learning those skills?
Yeah. So one thing I do is sorry, I don't have a slide for this, but it comes back to qualitative testing where we bring and talk to people. So a lot of things we do is getting the habit of bringing people to come in, like maybe 4 or 5 people a week. I just usually run sort of an advertisement. I try and get people in what we call a panel, a research panel. And so I kind of understand some metrics about them, but my goal is to always have 4 or 5 people that come in every week to our office and test something. And so a lot of times for this out-of-box experience, we basically rapid prototype. We use construction paper and built like the box and what would be in it, and we set it on and we just put something there and say, oh, what do you think about this? You can touch it and do whatever you want. And then see how they do it, where they do it, like where are their questions. And so testing is so important. Like you just don't know. You think you think you're your target audience, but you're not, because nobody that you're going to sell to is building a company that's like building a product. And so I think it's important to be connected to the user all throughout this and really just be so cognitive of all their pain points. Like for us parents, like huge cognitive load, like the first month, and they can't read a manual, they can't like spend any extra time to even plug one extra cord in, and so like that's all part of our brand, like simplicity and there's just core things where all those draw right back into our core tenets. And so even though it might be easier and might make the device more versatile, like we felt like, oh well, they could use it, or if you have twins, it would this particular case, you can it would make it really easy if you had like twins or triplets. But the reality is that for the small minority that have multiples, which is growing, like you're going to subject all your other to this like core thing. And so we just felt that the brand is what dictated our changing of our design, and because we started with that, and so we knew exactly. And again, I think everything you do, it really comes back to that.
So 2-part. I think you said you don't outsource, so I'm assuming you didn't.
Okay, well, yeah. So I don't outsource our sort of user testing or sort of our product or stuff. We did outsource industrial design.
Okay.
So
my question was like, to make it real practical.
Yep.
Like, do you create like brand guidelines to do this?
Yes.
Or like, how do you have the same understanding of the brand within your company?
Yeah. So brand guideline, yeah. So we create a brand foundation, and then we have something that's somewhat in the works, but we have like what we call our company culture handbook. And so the handbook is not on there, but all of our brand is represented on there. So it's a book of company culture is what we call it. So the Zappos guide talks a lot about that. I also think that everything that you do exudes your brand. So like when, for instance, when we interact with our industrial design firm, it could be very hard to articulate, I don't like that logo, I don't like that logo, or I don't like that design, and it doesn't work. Like like they're going to spend hours going over it. But if I can say, hey, look, this is a little bit complex, and really our brand is about simplicity. We want everything to look simple and be easy to understand, and so that helps. It helps sort of set the argument. And then when like maybe an engineer wrote some copy and well, it's not quite right. Like you could always go back, and so it's always connecting back to that as a reason why you might want to make this change. So, and in essence, brand is kind of a buzzword. In some ways, it's a little fuzzy on what it means. But to me, this is your company culture. This is really all the key tenets of what you aspire to do as a company. Yep.
You said before that when you were raising money, there were other people doing something similar.
Yep.
Did you know that when you got started, and did that deter you at all? Or
So I did not. Yeah. So I did not know that, but after I think after we actually applied to some hardware incubators, then we started seeing them. But actually, it spurred me on because they weren't focused on brand. They weren't focused on the core tenets of like I could tell the product was focused on, not like where we were focused. And it's actually good because I felt like, for me, I want the products to go into market first because we thought so much about this and we care so much about this that we're thinking about every little detail. And for us, I think it sets the bar a little low. I mean, I don't know, there could be somebody that's doing a killer thing, and that's great. But for us, and I also think that it's good for us that people are aware that technology is changing sort of the face of this, and the more people that do it, the more people become comfortable. And then I'll just give you one caveat to that. It's like, I don't know who said it, but if you watch your competitor, then you start to look like your competitor. So for us, it's, intrinsically we know what we're building, we know exactly what we want, and we have very strong opinions about that, and we work a lot with users and user research, and so I would say don't copy, like have your own sort of vision. So, yep.
At what stage did you get VC funding? Like, did you have a working prototype or?
So yeah, so in our particular case, so when we first got accepted to the hardware incubator, we had basically a breadboard. So we had all the electrical, we had no industrial design. We did have sort of a clear path to what our next products would be. And we had a lot of this thinking. And then after that, we did our industrial design. We had an appearance model, and then we had form factor electronics. So we didn't get to the stage that looks like, works like, which we really wanted to at the time that we raised money, but there was so much interest in this kind of space, and we felt like the timing for it was okay. So, yeah.
Did the enthusiasm for that, did that kind of make you sort of change your roadmap or change kind of the plan that you were going on?
For which?
For just for the whole thing, like you said, there was such enthusiasm and support. I thinking like, you have this plan or this idea of like what your next steps are, and people are coming and saying, no, we'll give you money, that's it, we get it, and suddenly you're like, oh, well, was there stuff that you're like, well, okay, well now we don't have to explain this, or now we don't have to do this,
no,
we can just
So no, I think I like pitching the company. Like I like talking to investors. I don't like saying, oh, well, these guys, like I think for me, because it's like I'm selling, like we love what we're doing, and I love telling people about it, and so I don't mind. And the thing is like as a first-time entrepreneur, what I found is a lot of people, and I even made this mistake early on, is that you tend to sort of adjust and course correct for investor feedback, and that's wrong. Like I think investors give you a lot of input, but if you're always chasing your next round of funding, then you're going to fail your product. Your product should be laser focused on how is this thing going to sell, like what's the best product for the customer, everything will come along. But if you're like, well, if we just add, Bluetooth and ANT, this investor will be really good, so now we're going to have Bluetooth and ANT, you're going to fail.
Yeah, so you're just like, the word is no, therefore I'm going anyways.
Well, it's not that, I mean, you have to look for, I think you have to look for flags that are reasonable, but the same thing is like, you're not optimizing for the round, you're optimizing for customers and sales.
I have two questions. Which hardware incubator did you go to?
So,
And
yeah.
what was your distribution strategy?
So first thing is product is not in the market yet. So I'll talk about our distribution strategy. So first thing is we applied to Hackcelerator and Lemnos Labs. That was the only two that we knew about at the time. We got accepted to both. We went to Lemnos Labs primarily for us. We felt that getting this right. So like for us, it has to look safe and it has to look comfortable. And getting that design right and everything, just we could not time box that into a window. We felt like we're trying to build a big company and we need all the time that it's going to take to get this right. And so for us, we also felt that at this particular time that Lemnos Labs had, they had just brought a new partner, a client that had tons of consumer electronics experience, understood the space very well, and for us that was the right decision. Now there's a lot more choices, and everything's a little bit different. So I think I wouldn't take my experience as the way to do it. I would say you should figure out what's best for your product company. And then what was your second question again? Sorry.
What was your distribution?
Yeah. So this is something that I think we nailed pretty early on, but our distribution strategy is direct to consumer, and then online retail, and then retail. And so for us, we felt like direct to consumer lets us control our brand, lets us keep all the margins when we need them most, lets us really connect the customer early on. And then once we feel like we are, we can ramp whatever rate we want. We can ramp slow. I mean, provided that we can drive enough traffic and stuff. But and then go to online retail. And so for me, the goal is to build retail demand. So I think a lot of people want to scale. They want to ship like 100,000 units. Manufacturing off like first run off 100,000 units, like good luck, right? That's like Apple territory, right? I mean, it's the amount of effort it takes to get that like 10% to go from say 10,000 units to 100,000 units is huge. And you could probably America's back here could probably tell you everything about that. But and then for us, I think retail demand is critical. So we've gotten a lot of inbound stuff for like people that want to do retail, but for us, it's like we want to wait and get the demand there, and then that gives us better strategy for negotiation. So like for us, we're prepared, to grow slow and grow right and build the right relationship. And so that's kind of why we raise money. And I'll talk about this on this slide, but that's why we kind of one of the reasons why we didn't do crowdfunding.
There's a question at the back in the gentleman.
Yep.
Excuse me, you just mentioned those three models: direct to customer, direct.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Yeah. So we want to go direct to customer.
So I understand direct to customer.
Yep.
That's your website, right?
Yep.
So direct online is through Amazon.
So yeah, online retail is what I call it. So that would be Amazon, that would be Target, that could be any sort of specialty retailer. Like in our case, might like be WeSpring or
only available online.
Correct, and then retail. So
then brick and mortar.
Yeah, exactly. And retail
so
brings
the margins go down to the floor.
Say again.
The margins drop out for you totally at that point.
Well, I mean, right now, like the margins are great, but yeah, the goal is that you maybe go from 60% margin that retail demands to maybe a 30 or 40%. But you have more leverage if they really want you in the retail store. The other thing is retail, you have a host of costs. You have to pay extra advertising costs. You have to pay costs to advertise on their own website. Like the amount of stuff that you have to pay to be in a retail chain is pretty high. So you take away your margin, and then somebody doesn't want it, it's coming back to you. Somebody like puts in the spider case and it's locked up. Like, what can you do? So again, I think for us it's about leverage, and brand is so important that we're hoping obviously that the sales do really well, and then retail chains really want us in there, and so we have a little bit more leverage in the contracts that we do. So I mean, some people want to scale overnight, but I think scaling overnight is a lot of cost, a lot of risk, and just manufacturing could just you might have like high fail rates. You might lose like 20% of your inventory as it's being made, and then like I just don't think a manufacturing somebody that's like a brand new startup that's never shipped product is going to go into a tier 1 manufacturing contract manufacturer and be able to get the quality that they really think that they would want, especially something you're putting into a financial model most likely. Questions? Okay, so the thing, so like we've gone with product market fit, we've validated our problem market. Now the next thing is testing all your assumptions. So we've kind of laid out our brand, we understand what that looks like we know that people want to buy this, we know kind of what the feature set is, we understand our market. So now, like the next thing, investors, like this is a classic thing. So every single investor said, how can you give it away and how can you charge a subscription? Like that's the thing, is they want to give it away and charge a subscription. There's lots of good reasons why that sounds good for us, because, more data adoption, more data coming in, more competitive advantage, more out-of-box experience. But intrinsically, we knew as parents that, like, for us, it's probably not a good model. But that's not good enough. I can't just say, oh, that's not going to work. So, two things we did right off the bat is we tested price. So we created a landing page. We ran 6,000 people through it and 12 different price points. And we tested price points. We tested what converted. And this is equivalent to having some benefits and features, probably early mock of the mock or early picture, like a 3D model or a prototype of it, and then buy it now for a price. And then we also had a control group that was just buy it now. Or no, the control group was more info. And so we measured what each price did compared to that, and so that gave us a lot of assumptions on, or a lot more realistic assumptions on what we could charge for this. You know, people would be all over the map on what they think this is worth, but we've tested it, we've got some ideas of what that is. And then the other thing is we tested a subscription model. So unfortunately, the subscription model, we instead of doing landing page tests, we did a regular research survey. So we used like Google Research, Google Analytics for all this. And in that case, what we did is we asked parents basically if they would buy it for a really low price and a low monthly subscription, or a really high price, way above what we sell it for. And if you really did the math on this particular case, if you did the math on what it would cost to buy it and you know, do the subscription model, like, you know, it would take you 5 years to pay the equivalent of outright. So that's what we did, and we made it very, you know, if you're math and you think like Spock, like you would have broke out the calculator, or you would have done this in your head, and you would say, well, that's a better deal. But we found that 65% of parents would rather pay substantially more than a subscription. And then we also found that parents that had more than one kid, it was 85%. And so when I went and pitched, you know, that was some of the questions, and was like, well, subscription model, of course, and no, subscription model doesn't work. And so I think part of things is you think the market's a certain size, you think you can get this price, and believe me, anybody's manufacturing, like, you know, that BOM, you have the bill of materials, which is how much the components cost. You have, you know, some other upfront costs. You have packaging. You have you know, freight, and you have all these little costs that come in, and then you got to sell it, and then you got to think about all the retail. And if anybody's thinking about doing consumer electronics, I would say read a book by Phil Baker called From Concept to Consumer. Really gives you a lot of details and into how to do this, but you know, you're looking at substantial problems if you can't sell it at a price point that makes sense, and so you better test it first. Yeah.
How'd you get 6,000 people to land?
So in our test, so we use paid advertisements, so Google AdWords, and what we did is we went through a step. So we first tested what sort of keywords were most effective, and then we tested what titles or headlines converted the most, and then we directed them to things. So we spent, you know, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 for like a week or something, whatever it was. But you spend a small amount and you just drive a massive amount of traffic, and then.
And then you had people click buy now, even though you couldn't sell it.
Yeah, and then we say, oh, sorry, it's not ready yet. Please put your email if you want. So you turn it into a lead gen. So it's a very common thing. So it's called landing page testing. You know, most startups do this quite frequently. They even do this with software features. So they might release a button that says, oh, buy the special holiday kit for $99. Oh, it's not quite ready yet. But you can test it. You can measure it and see if it's worth building that particular feature. Yeah.
How does the software for this work? Is it an app in the iStore, or does it come along with the device?
So yeah, so it is mobile. So yeah, everything. So we have a back-end service. There's software that obviously runs, firmware that runs on the hardware, and then everything's just done via mobile device over BLE or Wi-Fi. So for us, mobile first. So if you just look at the trends, everything's mobile. You know, you're going to be out to dinner, you're going to have a babysitter, you're going to want to know if your child's okay. So mobile. Yep.
Do you continue to test to this day?
Yep.
To adjust for pricing?
Yeah, well, we're still not, you know, we're still, the thing that we get into now is a lot more around benefits. So like we test a lot of words and benefits and even pictures and stuff. So we get more granular and then continue to test pricing. Yeah. So.
Have you found that's changed over time based on like how strong your brand becomes, or? How
it is a little bit. There are some factors, but we try and so we kind of keep that same like really crappy page. The landing page is not really optimized with brand or anything. So we really focus on sort of value proposition. So the words that we're using to convince somebody to click the buy button. So when you change, like if you change it, then you need kind of a new control. So you need kind of a baseline to say, okay, are we doing better or above that? Or is it just because we, put a new logo on there and made the color look better? Is that why we're getting more conversion? So.
Are you using any particular software?
Unbounce. So we use unbounce.com.
Unbounce.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Hopefully we're doing on time. So no crowdfunding for us. So that's the other thing, you know, investors, at least early on, that was always a question. We are very adamant that it's not for us, and I'll tell you why. It's different for everybody. For us, we felt that people who are having babies aren't early adopters in this market, at least at the level that they're going to buy something off Kickstarter. You know, I think, you know when you're going to have a baby. Like, it's coming no matter what. You're going to have a certain window that you're going to need a device for. So they're on a strict time schedule. You're late, which were, you know, like when we were starting, it was like 70-something% of hardware projects were late. It might even be higher now. It's just, there's no confidence. And then, yeah, the late reputation. And then the thing is, for us, again, it's brand. You want your first interaction to be that, hey, sorry we're late. Oh, sorry we're late. Oh, I'm sorry your baby was born, you can't use this device. Other things that played a role is that parents don't buy, they don't just like walk into a Target, look at end cap, or they don't just say, oh, that looks great, I'll buy that. They actually do a lot of research, so they need recommendations. So there's a lot more effort that goes into buying a product. And so for Kickstarter, there's cool things, and you know, the cool factor of something is pretty neat. And there's still, I think there's quite a few people that would buy something like this off Kickstarter, but the core bread and butter, probably not. And so I think we need people who have used the system, people who can attest to it works, people that have reviewed it, in order to have a good sort of launch campaign. And so we don't want to waste all this effort trying to launch a product on a crowdfunding site that, you know, nobody's going to really use, at least for our particular case. The other thing too is crowdfunding could be a differentiator for some people. So like, let's say you have some competitors out there and you have some really cool technology that might be a differentiator. And if you crowdfund, then maybe your competitors that have already crowdfunded or raised money might compete against you. So, you know, crowdfunding is great for sort of proving traction. And I think it's gotten more hardware projects off the ground than anything, you know, around lately. But it's not for everything, and it's for a lot of things. But for our particular case, I think it's not. And so, if you ever raise money, it's a big issue. Some things, you know, you better crowdfund it because nobody's gonna, you know, they want to see proof that it works or proof that people are gonna buy it. But for us, this is, you know, we thought this was gonna be difficult, a challenge for us. But I think we, you know, we laid out our case. We said exactly why, and it turns out two of our competitors did crowdfund and, you know, proved our case. It was one failed to meet their goal, the other, you know, barely dented their, barely went over their goal essentially. And you know, a good product like this with the right sort of introduction in the marketplace can do really good. So, other questions? All right. Mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. There's one thing I want to talk about, and we talked a little bit about outsourcing, but so again, we're creating new product categories, right? Internet of Things is, you know, unlocking new possibilities, disruptive things. We're doing stuff with existing technology. You know, we're using components, but we're using it in new ways. And for us, wearables, babies, consumer electronics, like this, you know, this is a big thing. And like early on, we tried to outsource mechanical, and it was bad. And it's the worst mistake I made. And I feel like that my advice to somebody is, you know, make sure that you need to outsource. Like, I think when you outsource something, if it's something that the company's done and it's done very well before, and they're just repeating this process, yeah, we can, you know, we built X widget and you're just like X.1 widget. Like, I think that's probably okay in some cases, but you know, for us all along, we want to keep our team internal. As we build new products, there's a lot of things we'll learn from wearables. There's a lot of things you're going to learn about RF and, you know, reception range and how things drop out from, you know, somebody's weird router. And these are things that, like, if you outsource, you'll never understand the reasons why, and you might not have the ability to fix them. And so, you know, our intent to outsource this mechanical was really to buy us time to build our team, to build really good people. It's important to make sure you build a great team. And looking back, it should have been obvious that, you know, there's very few companies that have done anything in the wearable space, and especially when you tie in a baby and where safety, and there's so many issues that you have to be aware of. And so, if you think you're going to go outsource your app to some, you know, place in South America, like, you have to just be careful because some of that is core to your company.
So you were just talking about, like, you know, people's weird routers and stuff. Did you actually go out and buy like a lot of? Did you actually go out and buy like a lot of home hardware?
We have some, yeah, but we're continuing. So part of it is vendor selection. So, you know, you can go buy these, you know, just OEM stuff from Shenzhen, you know, but good luck, like, you're writing your own protocol, for it, like your own stack. So for us, you know, I think the core things where it's about connectivity, it's about, like, how easy are they going to get on the network? How easy are they going to be able to get their credentials there, all that stuff. Like it's a factor in our component selection. So even though some things may be a little bit more, it's much more than having problems. So even if you look at Electric Imp, they've had problems. So they've had problems even when they can flash the device with the SSID and the password. They've had problems with routers. So at the end of the day, we'll probably have a shelf full. Like we have a bunch we've collected, but there'll be a lot. So yeah.
How do you estimate demand in this case? Because for a hardware product, if you have excess demand, you are stuck with inventory. If you have low demand, you are not able to meet the market need.
Yeah, it's really hard. And so in our understanding our market, so what we really did is try to figure out what the penetration rate would be based on what is already sold. So people are already buying video monitors, and we've gotten more and more data specifically about the different categories of video monitors. But we tried to optimize off that, and then we tried to aim low. And so part of our direct consumer is like we want to grow slow. So we maybe will probably be, if it's a good product and people really like it, we actually might not be able to meet the demand initially. But it's much better than getting a product out there. You ship 20,000, and then you find one little bug, and then people jump on social media and cause problems. And so for us, it's really about growing slow. But new to the world product, like we've grappled with this. We're not sure. I mean, we have like a super experienced marketing person helping us out, and they've extrapolated all kinds of just great insights. And we think that our numbers are way low, but I think we're sticking with them, just to be safe. So, but it's a very hard product, especially new to world stuff. Anybody else?
I got a question.
Yeah.
You said you don't want to outsourcing mechanics was a bad idea. What are some of the things that you wish you'd done? If you were to do this again, what are some of the things that you do, and what you missed out on right now?
Yeah, I think I would have been more aggressive about hiring the A-Star team like way sooner. So we thought we'd outsource this particular thing and it would buy us time, so we could focus on some other things. And to recruit good people it takes a while. It's very hard. And so that's one thing. And I think I would have, I probably, in hindsight knowing this, I probably would not have outsourced this to anybody that has never done a wearable before. There's a couple companies that I know that have done wearables can easily build this product for us, and I've since talked to them, and I'd probably look at them. Other things too, we were oversubscribed on our round. I probably would have took more money. So hardware is, schedules are longer and it's more expensive than you think. So. That was probably, it's not a big mistake, but it's something that in hindsight I probably would have maybe let a couple more people in. So.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Are you having this manufactured, or are you having it? Are you partnering with a distributor who just manufactures?
No. Yeah. So we're designing it ourselves. So one thing you can do is you can partner with a contract manufacturer, and they'll have like ODM services. Actually, I'm not even sure what it stands for these days. Merrick might know, but anyways, they can help you design. Say again?
ODM is original design manufacturing.
Yep. Okay. So they'll help you design and build. Like they might take a reference design. They have EE, mechanical, everything to help you. And so a lot of companies do that. They'll just say, hey, look, this is what I want. This is my product requirements document. They'll help you build it, source, do all that stuff. And then problems with that is that sometimes depending on who you go to, like they kind of own that design, and it'll, it might end up elsewhere. Some things that might not matter, but and so they can help you do that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have to partner with a contract manufacturer. And for us, I think we, luckily because we do have money, it's easier for us to, hire people from Apple, Lab 126 to help us design and get this product to market. But some other people, you might not have that luxury.
Right.
So
we are actually running a little long on time.
Okay.
I think maybe if you can hold your questions, then afterwards that you have a lot of FaceTime.
All right. This is the last big section anyway. So buzzwords and promises. So this is where it connects back to things. So wearables, IoT, big data, like all this stuff is labels, right? And so labels, everybody's like, oh, the space is growing. There's a lot of interest, big promises in the space. But the problem is there's no clear expectations. What are the clear outcomes of Internet of Things? Like what products are going to change the world? We don't know. We just know that there's a label of Internet of Things, and my mind's running wild. And so what I'd be careful of is being a big data company or an IoT company or a wearable company. Like I would be something in that category. To us, wearables, Internet of Things, it's an enabling technology for us. And an example, it's not Nest, the Internet of Things thermostat, right? It's Nest, the smart learning thermostat. And so I think it's really important that that they have a clear value proposition. They promise that like you'll never have to schedule your thermostat again, and you'll lower your bill. and it happens to be an like Internet of Things device. But they never say that. And so I think if you're onto something good and you're solving a real problem, the label is just kind of it's just an ends to a means to an end in some regard. So I would be very careful to get wound up in this thing, and I've seen this happen, and we kind of did this with the social gaming thing. So my last company, we kind of got caught up. Okay, yeah, like social gaming's hot. We can get money. We can get an exit. Yeah, it's going to be great. And so we became a social gaming company. We didn't become the best gaming company that's going to bring this new technology. We became a social gaming company because social gaming's so hot. And then I saw people like, oh, we're a gamification company because gamification's hot. So the thing is you gotta remember that at the end of the day, you have to solve a problem, right? You have to bring something that's really solving a problem. And so, my advice to you is not get caught up in the label, but really understand what how that label enables you to solve this problem. And it's a big problem, and people really care about it. So here's what I think the real promise of IoT is. I think that the second that devices can be contextually aware, that means they can talk to each other, they can decipher what context is happening. I've used this example before, but if my hot water, my washer turns hot water on, I'm taking a shower and it gets cold, I wish my washer would not go on, right? And so to me, can a device do that? Can it be contextually aware enough? Can we have the thermostat heat up when it needs to because there's some other thing? And the key here is, I think early adopters, like if then that is great, but at the end of the day, I don't think to make this deliver on the promise that it should be programmed by end users. I think people are learning to program and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, that 12 o'clock was blinking on VCRs forever. You never set your schedule on your thermostat, and so you got to still bring real value. And I think this is really important. I think the real promise is how can we make our lives easier, more intelligent when the things around us kind of are helping us do that without us having to actually think about it or program it. And so to me, when you think about the Internet of Things, you think about the back end or the wall garden. Like everybody's aiming to kind of control this, but this is the tough problem to solve. I think this is the hardest problem to solve is how we do this in a way that your washer that's made by LG knows how to talk to your light bulb made by LifeX or something. I think those things are important, and that who builds that is that's a great opportunity. It's a hard opportunity, but so, yeah. He's building it, by the way. All right, questions. This is pretty much it. So, yep.
So, there were a lot of takeaway lessons about what you should do or what you wish you did that all seem to sort of say like this is very important. Like nailing your brand is very important. Understanding your customer is very important. Not outsourcing your stuff to people who don't make sure you do that right. Get the AT. All of this, and then take your time and make sure you do it right and grow slow. All of this is, in a word, expensive.
Well, yeah, it's
very expensive
in
time and in money.
Yep.
And we're not all magnets with Samsung budget to go and do whatever you want. In a resource-constrained startup, what gives? Everything's important.
It changes every day, honestly. Like we make compromises every day. It changes every day. But I'll tell you, if the problem that you're solving is big enough, the less problems you have in other areas. So, I think, money goes after, good ideas, big ideas. It tends to, not always, but it tends to. So, if you struggle a lot, that could be an indication that maybe what you're doing is not spot on. Maybe you need to course correct. But at the end of the day, everybody has their struggle. I've heard 1,000 different ways people have gotten there. Honestly, this has been the easiest so far for me as an entrepreneur. I've had real grinds in the past, and at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about resilience, right? And so you don't have the answers. You find whatever it takes to get it done, and if you really believe in it, and it's there's some value in there, you'll see it through. And I just wish I could give you a formula, but I can't.
Well, I guess in your specific case, what did you not do that you would have already if you had another $5 million or something?
Yeah, I would hire more people. Team is critical. Definitely hire more people. I think is the first thing. Yeah.
Can I please ask you to expand on the hire more people concept?
I'm sorry.
And this is why. So you have a focus on babies here. Those babies are going to grow into toddlers and so on and so forth. I know that's how it works. And so your team will be done with the wearable monitor for babies, and the knowledge that they acquire during the process will be used for.
So for Christmas next year, we have a new product for toddlers, 2 years old, that really helps transition from crib to bed. So, and then we have a product after that. I mean, it solves real pain points, but for us, it's, you know, it's solving pain points at each aging stage of the development of your child. And so, we, you know, that product is already somewhat in the works. And so I wish I could keep that going faster and continue to execute on this. But at the end of the day, one thing I learned about that maybe I didn't talk about is the outsourcing is that, you know, we didn't have veteran consumer electronics experience, and it makes a huge difference. And the second that we got aggressive and started bringing people in from, you know, Apple, Lab 126, other companies, as the second that like the picture became so much more clear. So, you know, I think, you know, incubators have helped out a lot and to give us some clear expectations. But at the end of the day, like when you're doing line items on the schedule and you're really trying to figure out how are we going to get this thing to the next build and how are we, like how many units we're going to need, experience counts. And you know, we've surrounded ourselves with a lot of consumer electronics experience on our advisor board through our incubator and then on our team. But I just can't stress that, like, man, it is not, you know, it's not a walk in the park. And you know, there's lots of people probably here that can tell you that manufacturing can be tricky, and it's really, it's not the 80%, it's the last 20% that's really tricky, and that's where like grizzled veterans that have battle scars can really make a difference.
So we're actually running a little long, but what I wanted to do is actually have give you guys some time to network to each other and also spend some face time with Chris. So in that sense, can we give Chris a big round of applause?